Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year. This is Stacey Sanderson, author of Heart Wide Open, a holistic guide to self recovery from narcissistic wounding. I'm a psychotherapist, speaker, but mostly I think I'm a truth teller. And the month of December was, I'm not going to lie, a bit of a shit show. Like many of you and many empaths, I have some autoimmune issues. And so went into a Hashimoto's relapse, followed by the flu, then followed by the holiday season. And I just want to say I am so grateful to be here in this new year with a fresh start. And just living in total chaos right now of, my car got backed into and we're having a major plumbing issue here in our house and things keep breaking. And hopefully there is some shift happening with all of that energetically. Much of that to say is when I'm struggling, I can sometimes find it hard to have the energy to show up in this kind of fashion. But again, I'm very happy to be here. I have had something come up in my social media feeds and with someone that I follow on YouTube with an incredibly large public platform saying that you shouldn't forgive someone who's toxic or narcissistic. And as someone who routinely does forgiveness work with people, and I offer cord cutting rituals that focus on forgiveness. I have taught meta meditation for years. I'll get back on track with what I was saying. I couldn't disagree with that statement more, and I frankly think it's dangerous. And so that whole idea of not forgiving someone in combination with the confusing other message of just let them has really irritated me, really gotten under my skin. And I know I need to separate out the work I do with people from what's out there and going viral in the masses. But I do find that a lot of social media messaging is very negative, and that seems to be what's influencing the algorithm. And I refuse to do that. So, forgiveness. You can define forgiveness in any way that makes sense to you. I define forgiveness from perhaps a bit of a Buddhist or self-compassion place of releasing someone from the expectations that they could have done something differently. I'm going to say that again. Release someone from the expectation that they could have done something differently. If you hear people who've had a loved one be, violently murdered, one of the things that they will tell you was helpful for them is forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't a spiritual bypass. Forgiveness doesn't come from a lofty place of, I'm a better person and I'm going to let you away with this. Forgiveness is a release. When we are in a meta meditation and we introduce loving kindness language, one of the things that most meditation leaders will say is this step of loving kindness may not influence anyone else. It may not do well or do good, rather, for anyone else, but it may for you immensely. Forgiveness comes from a place of power, balance. If we hold a grudge, if we, I'm shrugging my shoulders, if we close in around our heart, energetically, that's not good for you. And holding a grudge or being bitter or resentful is a negative energy that does nothing for the other person, but can be very harmful to you. There have been people who have betrayed me. There have been people who, although this sounds paranoid, have been out to get me. There have been people who have said things about me that are untrue. And I can be as stubborn and grudge holding as the next person can be. I come by it honestly. But the first thing you do if someone harms you is to set a boundary with that person. And forgiveness doesn't have to come automatically, it can come later on. So we can decide to have a different a different relationship with someone who's harmed us. Often that's exactly what happens. We can decide what level of communication, if any, we want to have with them. And I'm going to do a separate talk on going no contact later. But forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you. And forgiveness lives on the spectrum of the amount of harm that you've experienced. I think not forgiving someone keeps you in a place of suffering. Can you forgive someone who's highly narcissistic? Of course you can. If we understand the level of their impairment, if we understand the level of emotional maturity that they're operating from, of course we can forgive them. If you let them do it again, that's an entirely separate issue. That's on you, right? So when I'm doing loving kindness meditation, I love to bring out this little book, The Art of Forgiveness, Loving Kindness, and Peace by Jack Kornfield. And it's just filled with little nuggets of wisdom and many sticky notes, as you can see. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this. And I believe these words have really become embedded in my psyche over the years. Forgiveness does not forget, nor does it condone the past. Forgiveness sees wisely. It willingly acknowledges what is unjust, harmful, and wrong. It bravely recognizes the sufferings of the past and understands the conditions that brought them about. There is a strength to forgiveness. When we forgive, we can also say, never again will I allow these things to happen. We may resolve to never again permit such harm to come to ourselves or another. Forgiveness does not mean that we have to continue to relate to those who have done us harm. In some cases, the best practice may be to end our connection, to never speak to or be with a harmful person again. Sometimes in the process of forgiveness, a person who hurt or betrayed us may wish to make amends, but even this does not require us to put ourselves in the way of further harm. Forgiveness is how we find a level of peace in our hearts, right? It makes me think of that phrase from the Bible, the peace that surpasses all understanding, or something like that. I am terrible at quoting the Bible. But forgiveness is a way that we cultivate a level of peace for us, not for anyone else. I also think forgiveness takes work. It's a commitment. Our suffering is a choice, and forgiveness is something that can ease us along that road in suffering. Forgiveness is a choice we can make, but it doesn't mean we agree with or give permission to that person who has harmed us. To me, forgiveness represents a powerful, energetic boundary where we acknowledge that someone has done something that has hurt us. But we also acknowledge that we don't have to continue to feed that or give our power away to that person. So when I'm talking about the process of narcissistic recovery specifically, I will be very discerning about where I introduce the idea of forgiveness. It is not part of transforming pain to power in the level 1, and that's my narcissistic recovery program, which is all about understanding your early patterns, understanding your early conditioning, how to set powerful boundaries. I talk a lot about compassionate detachment. Forgiveness lives in the concept of compassionate detachment for sure, but I think it can be a separate piece of work. And I talk about it more in level 1, and I definitely introduce it in the cord cutting rituals that I offer. I believe forgiveness also is something that can come up organically. We may have a shift in our awareness of ourselves and that other person. And on that note, you absolutely have to forgive yourself first before you can forgive the other person, much like self-compassion. We have to hold ourselves in kindness and compassion first before we can hold someone else in kindness and compassion. But it has been my personal experience that when we extend compassion to someone else, there can be a point where if they've harmed us, it organically or naturally feels okay to forgive them. Or, it feels like thoughts around forgiveness come up without our conscious awareness. Sorry if that was confusing, but it can be something really organic that happens. But when you forgive someone, you're not opening the door to let them back in to hurt you again, or at least I hope you're not. And you don't even have to tell them. Let me say that again. You can forgive someone, but you don't have to tell them that. Narcissists, people with any kind of personality disorder, are very good at manipulating the idea of forgiveness, right? They'll pull on your heartstrings. They'll say, please forgive me, blah, 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 right? So it's, they're not really looking for forgiveness. They're looking for permission to treat you badly again, right? So everyone who's been through some type of no contact period with a narcissist knows they're really good at sucking you back in. So, but forgiveness does not give them permission to do that. You can forgive them and leave that door entirely closed. You don't have to tell them, right? There's a whole lot of people out there whom I've forgiven, but they don't know that. They probably think this post is about them, and it partly is, right? But please, if this current popular statement of not forgiving is confusing, I come back to the fact that the concept of forgiveness transcends any kind of current popular psychobabble viral idea. The concept of forgiveness lives in all of the major world religions and spiritual practices. So if you would like to be part of a concept or idea of heart-centered living or heart-centered change in the world, I hope this idea resonates with you. And please like and prescribe. Please like and subscribe. It's important to me that positive messaging gets out there, and it's equally, if not more important to me, that we engage in this conversation. And if it's been confusing, if the concept of forgiveness is confusing or doesn't feel right, I understand that. There's an element of needing to be ready. So join in the conversation. Find me at Stacey Sanderson at Inquire Within, where there's a Facebook community, and on Instagram, or at staceysanderson.ca. I just really want to get into this conversation with you, and coming from the heart space, standing in your power, and offering understanding and forgiveness is part of being a warrior. So thank you so much for listening. And I wish you well and a happy new year if I hadn't said so earlier. Take very good care.